Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
Great. You doing good?
Right.
Yes.
Doing great? Especially if your football team won yesterday, right?
Yes.
I thought for sure Ohio State was going to get beat. I dozed off and on, and then woke up at the very end and discovered they had won a game. I was happy to see that Michigan State had won. I was also concerned that the University of Michigan, which has an excellent football team, they gave a pretty good competition, didn't they? They really did. So they'll do well next week, believe me. I want to do something this morning that I hope won't embarrass anyone. But I promise, Fred, tell me if I embarrass anyone. This is Dominic, am I correct?
Yes.
Dominic, raise your hand so people can see you. He's one of our acolytes. Emma? You're Emma? Emma, raise your hand so people can see you. And tell me your sister's name. Tiana, Tiana, raise your hand. You see Tiana, can you come stand so people can see you? She's so short. There she is, she's short. Tiana, there you go. People want to say hi to you. You say hi to her. And Kaylee, is it Kaylee? Kaylee, raise your hand so people can see you. Would you? Okay. There's Kaylee. And you, these are your sisters. And behind you is your brother. And what is your name? Matthew. Matthew, do you know that you have a biblical name? You do know that. So Matthew, would you raise your hand so people may know you? I want you to know the names of these children, and I want you to help me to learn the names of these children. Would you do that? Yeah. Don't let me forget. And the father, David, I know David. I got a picture of you. David, this is the father of these beautiful children, and my understanding is that Amy had to work today, but the father brought these children to church. Would you show your gratitude? I wanted to give you a talk on this subject in preparation for Advent. I also wanted to give it to you, share it with you, so that you might share it with others as this congregation moves to be healthy and whole in its behavior and its witness and its advocating the life of Christ in your lives. And so my heart was moved to talk to you this morning about the subject of judgment or judge. And you'll see that the topic is judge not. And so I begin today's message with a true story. Her name was Jill, and she was a junior in high school. She was well-liked, appreciated, and an honor roll student. Everyone respected her and liked Jill. She had a voice that could move you to tears. You would want her in your choir. Her future was full of promise, and she was planning on attending an Ivy League school. With my influence, I was hoping she'd apply to Yale University. But something went terribly, terribly wrong. The family requested for me to do the funeral on what would have been her 17th birthday. In the depths of silent pain and depression, she took an overdose of sleeping pills. Jill left a note saying that she would no longer tolerate the vicious rumors, the daily rejection, and agony any longer. She felt betrayed by her friends and neighbors. A tragic teenage suicide sparked by a misunderstanding within false rumors, by people spreading mean-spirited gossip. Ordinary people like you and me, good people. The rumor was that she came home at daybreak in a drunken stupor, her clothes disheveled, delivered to her door by an older man in a sports car. That was the rumor. But the truth was that she had sat up all night at the hospital with her gravely ill grandmother and had been brought home the next morning by her uncle. That was the real truth. But a neighbor was looking out her kitchen window and immediately formed her own conclusions. the uninformed conclusions, and then with obvious delight started a smear campaign, a rumor, a false rumor, and as a result a young innocent woman was horrified, hopeless, and devastated. The pointed fingers and the blatant lies just was too much for Jill. She cracked under the pressure, and in a moment of deep sadness and pain and agony, this precious child of God took her life. This young woman had so much promise to contribute to society, and now she was gone because people participated in spreading vicious lies and rumors that had no validity whatsoever. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus cautioned us about this when he said, "Judge not that ye be not judged." For this is a theory or a suggestion. It's not a theory or a suggestion. And it is not a request or a plea. It is a commandment without negotiation. But Jesus is speaking from the heart. He is not mincing words. He is not saying to this to hear himself talk or espouse high-sounding platitudes. He is speaking with conviction and giving us a stern warning. And the warning was, judge not. Jesus knew that we would have to make decisions and make choices in life. Where we should live, what school we should go to, who we should marry, who we should be in a relationship with, where we should work. We make them every day when we choose oatmeal rather than eggs and bacon, or when we opt to buy a certain kind of car, or when we decide on where and when we take our next vacation. We are making a judgment. We make value and moral judgments every single day of our lives. And now we know that the Sermon on the Mount was given that we might gain insights and standards by which to make decisions. Common sense tells us that we have to make those kinds of judgments. But that is not what Jesus is talking about in Matthew when he says, judge not. If you look in the dictionary, you will find that the verb judge, J-U-D-G-E, does indeed mean to decide or to distinguish. But there's also another definition. To judge also means to condemn or to censure, to criticize, to blame, to vilify, to denounce. That is precisely what Jesus is talking about here. In fact, that verse could be translated like this: condemn not that you be not condemned. Jesus is giving us a strong warning. Again, he's saying, judge not. Don't be so quick to form, to draw unfounded conclusions. It serves no positive purpose. We should try our best not to be self-righteous, and I will join you in that effort. I don't want to be self-righteous. Did you hear me? Your pastor does not want to be self-righteous. I don't want to be quick to point the finger or to look carefully how Jesus related to his disciples and to large crowds. That's what I want to be doing. For he was compassionate and accepting even when they were unbelieving. I want to be more specific by sharing a few lessons of this verse from Matthew 7. Do you want to hear it?
Yes.
First, Jesus' command, judge not, is a warning against making quick, often irrational and hasty judgments on the grounds of rumor and hearsay. People make judgments all the time about the color of one's skin, about the texture of one's hair, about where one works, or where one wants to be in life. This is a story that Jesus is saying. It's a warning against gossip. We injure others when we start to gossip or spread rumors or make judgments without checking the facts. Folks, you want to be happy, take the high road and always open your heart to God's grace, and then we will find it less encouraging or less accepting to judge someone. The writer of Proverbs says this: a person may think their own ways are right, but the Lord weighs the heart. Rotary International advocates what they call the four-way test. It is really an amazing concept. It really works like this. Before you say anything, before you pass on anything, ask these 4 questions. Here they are. First, is it truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? If we, or if you, or if I can't answer those 4 questions with a definitive yes, then don't say it. This is the spirit Jesus is calling for us in today's reading when he says, judge not. And our children and grandchildren are watching and listening to us very carefully. Now here's the second lesson from this text. Jesus' command, judge not, is a warning against being unsympathetic and unkind in our judgments. Beware of being unkind. Years ago, when I first started in the ministry, I served a small membership church in Kingsport, Tennessee. You know where that is?
No.
Kingsport, Tennessee is in the southeastern corner of Tennessee. I served this church for a summer internship. It was in Kingsport, a small town compared to the Chicago area where I was living at the time. The town had only a handful of grocery stores, 10 service stations at the time, 3 post offices, and several thousand people at that time. Every morning, every single morning, I walked to the post office to get my mail, and every morning Mr. Dan, not you Dan, a different Dan, Mr. Dan would be sitting in the front porch of the post office humming a tune that I did not know. And every morning as I would walk by, he would turn his eyes towards me and say, "Nothing against you yet, preacher. Nothing against you yet." I had no clue what he was talking about, but his words filled me with a rush of emotion. On one hand, I was glad there was nothing against me. And on the other hand, I felt that he was looking for something. It was like waiting for the other shoe to drop. And somehow deep in my soul, I longed for kindness. I longed for compassion. I longed for mercy. I wanted him to be kind and gracious in his judgment of me. Don't you know that's what most people want from the church? That's what they want and need from us. I think that this is what it's all about. I think that is what we all want. For in many ways, we are like the man named Sam who went to have his picture made and said to the photographer, "Now I want you to do me some justice." And the photographer took one look at man and said, "Sam, what you need is mercy, not justice." I believe we all need that. But so often we forget that, how easy it is to jump on the bandwagon and criticize other people. Oh, I can do it better, or they didn't do it my way. Just because everybody's doing it, we sometimes jump on the bandwagon and we do it. It has become something of a fad to bash people, politicians and groups, personalities, and even friends with harsh words. I've even grown to the point where I don't even criticize politicians based upon their party. They're entitled to believe what they want to believe. They're entitled to say what they want to say. My job is to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ so that you understand how to respond to difficult decisions that are facing us in this country and also the world. But then we are confronted with the words of Jesus when he says to us in no uncertain terms, and those words are, "Judge not." Repeat after me. Judge not. Just surrender your life to the Lord of life, as I'm learning to do more and more and more, and you will find the humility and the strength to hold your tongue and walk away until a wise and gentle perspective comes to you. First, be aware of false rumors. Second, beware of being unkind. And number 3 is when Jesus said, "Judge not," he was warning us that our judgments may boomerang. Listen up, please. that we put out in the universe comes back to us. For over and over again, we see this acted out in Scripture. The elder brother judges the prodigal brother harshly. And the elder brother is the one who misses the party and comes out looking not so good. Martha judges her sister Mary, and Martha ends up the one embarrassed. The religious authorities, the Sadducees and the Pharisees and the Zealots, take on Jesus. What a big mistake. And their treatment and judgment of him boomerang back to them. That's the way it works, folks. Our harsh judgments come back to us. Thus the prayer, Lord, make my words sweet and tender today, for I have to eat them tomorrow. The late Bishop Robert Goodrich, in his book, Look at the Burning Bushes, tells of a schoolmaster who demanded strict discipline in his classroom. This is also a true story. He required that all students, as they stood to recite, must hold their textbooks in their left hand. Early in the term, one boy stood holding his book in his right hand, and the teacher interrupted with a stern reminder that he should hold his textbook in his left hand. But the boy continued to hold it in his right hand. The teacher lost it, shouting and screaming at him, "You take that book in your left hand right now or suffer dire consequences." The boy responded by saying, "But sir, I can't. I just can't." The teacher was so upset that he ran over to the student, screaming at the top of his voice, "Don't you dare disobey me. You are to obey me." And then he grabbed the boy and he began to shake him and push him down into his desk. But then an empty sleeve swung into view. The boy had no left arm, just an empty sleeve. The teacher was in shock, and he quietly stammered out his apology as the class listened in stunned silence. As we make our way to Advent, the liturgical season observed as a time of expecting, waiting, and preparation for both the celebration of the birth of Christ's child at Christmas and the return of Christ at the second coming. We will be in a period of waiting and preparation, waiting for the Lord to transform our lives and to instill within us the kind of hope and positivity that's needed to be a stronger, viable, loving congregation. Now, I have a few more thoughts on the subject and I'll be done. First, every one of us has an empty sleeve. Did you know that? Every single one of us has an empty sleeve which we cannot see, and if we knew about it, we would be more loving, more patient, more understanding, and far less critical. So I pray as we enter the season of Advent, we become more sensitive to the empty sleeves that are hidden away and non-visible in our lives. Remember that our hard and harsh judgments boomerang. They come back to us and cause unhappiness and unnecessary pain. And whether you are forgiving or receiving forgiveness, it's a powerful dynamic. When Jesus says, "Judge not," he is reminding us that judgment belongs to God and not us. Thank God I do not get what I deserve. Thank God Julius Del Pino does not get what he deserves, and that the Bible offers guidance on this topic which can help us on this journey. And that is why it's so important for you to read your scriptures, to study your scriptures, and to participate in Bible studies that this church is now offering. We need to be in those settings to grow, to develop, to become more enlightened. After all, to forgive is to show love. And love is the most important feeling we can share with our friends and family and even people who are not included in our inner circle. I will end with the words from Ephesians. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as Christ has forgiven you. Today, Julius Ernest Del Pino chooses forgiveness over judgment. What about you? May the church say amen.
Amen.
May we